Hey y'all, happy Sunday and welcome to this week's live Q&A session. This is the portion of the show where we allow YouTube to send out notifications that we're going live. If you're watching this live Q&A on replay, please scrub ahead until this graphic disappears and the actual show begins. If you're watching live and you have any comments or questions, please go ahead and put them in the live chat. But for now, grab a beverage, sit back, and relax while the countdown timer does its thing. Then we'll get started. Happy Sunday, everybody. Hope everybody's doing well and recovering from the holiday season and all of the frantic last minute sanding and finishing and recutting and resanding and refinishing and everything else that happened over the last few weeks. And here's hoping that everybody got everything sent out on time or delivered on time. And I hope you're getting a good rest, a well-deserved rest. From about, let's say November 1st till the big day is our Super Bowl season. So it's time for a well-deserved break. Before I say anything more, I want to give somebody a shout out, and that is a gentleman, friend of this channel member by the name of John Thompson. John Thompson, again, a channel member, took second place in the big Gatton CNC 2023 Christmas Challenge yesterday. And congrats, John. He worked very hard on his project. If you didn't see that broadcast over on Ryan Ballard's channel last night, I will find it and I'll put a link in the description as soon as we're done here. And y'all could go take a look at that. There were some very killer projects turned in for that contest. Dave Gatton runs a tidy ship over there, and he hosts this Christmas CNC challenge every year. And they had some pretty good prizes. And John took second. And I mean, he worked hard on that project. So it was very well deserved, John. So, need to take care of a little bit of housekeeping here before we get going. I am asked all the time if I do one-on-one tutoring, and I simply can't. I just don't have the time to do one-on-one tutoring. But there is a buddy of mine who just popped in, as a matter of fact. His ears must have been burning. Bull Shanigan. He also runs a tidy ship. You'll find a link to his website down in the description of this live stream. And he does do one-on-one tutoring. So he's the person that I will refer for you to. He's a good guy. He knows what he's doing. He's been a machinist, I mean, since, you know, forever. I think they built machines around him, and he's very good at what he does. So Steve has put a link over here in the chat, and again, there's a link down in the description of this video to go over and check out Bull Shanigan, and he'll get you on the right path. One last little bit of housekeeping is I want to say hi to my buddy Steve. He's out in the chat. He's hooting and hollering. He's posting links, all that other good stuff. And he runs another tidy little ship over there called Harneal Media. You've heard me talk about him before. Some of you have contacted him about what your needs are. But if you're looking for a website, a web store that you can sell your products or services or both, maybe you'd like to design a little bit of merch and put that up for sale, t-shirts, coffee cups, baseball caps, things like that. Yeah, Steve, I consider him a friend, and he's the only person I will ever refer. And you will find a link to Harneal Media in every video on this channel. And there's a reason for that. He's 100% personalized service. When you're dealing with Harneal Media, you're talking with Steve, not some nameless, faceless person in a call center somewhere. So do yourself a favor. Check him out, harnealmedia.com, link down in the description. So let's get started. Here lately, I have been getting a lot of questions about text. A lot of it is confusion based on some of my earlier videos. To put this into perspective, when I started posting these videos, I believe it was version 8.5 that I was using. And things have progressed over the years. And it's been a while since I made some of those videos. So I've been getting contacted by folks wondering why certain things aren't where I say they are or where I show them. And why aren't certain how do I do this when that certain control is no longer there? Well, I'm going to be remaking some of those older videos to reflect all the changes that have happened. Because as I said, I started on, I believe, 8.5, and we're up to 11.5. And Lord knows when version 12 is going to be coming along. So who knows what's going to change in version 12? Half of what I tell you now may be totally obsolete by next year. But things as far as text are concerned have stayed fairly consistent. There are a few differences, but a lot of these are minor differences. So let's go ahead and get into it. Probably the biggest difference that was added to the draw text window is, well, it's not even actually in the window itself. It's the way text acts and the way it reacts. There is a lot of editing that can be done with text now, but couldn't be done with a text object way back when. You had to convert certain things, you had to convert them to curves in order to do certain things. Well, some of that has changed, some of it has not changed. But probably the most obvious change is there is now a text box out here, so you can see where that text is going to go. And with my X and Y position here at X -4, Y -4, we can see where that text is going to go. Well, if I want it in the center where I have my X0, Y0, I can change that right here and Y0. And let's take a look at where that is positioned. Now, normally, if I was going to place any other object out here at my X0, Y0, I would have a little box diagram up here that would let me choose an anchor point where I wanted to anchor that text in this case. I have no such choice here. The only thing I can do is put in an anchor point down here. But if you look, that's not putting the center of my text box down here on my X or Y0. It's putting the base of that text. At the center of it is at X0, but it's putting the base of that text on my Y0. So that's one thing that you have to remember on this, okay? Let's go in. I'm going to choose a script font. I've chosen Adlery Pro as my font, and I'm just going to type my first name in here. And we'll call that good. So you can see what that did is it put the base of most of the text right on that line. Some of this text, the swoops in here of this script went down below my Y0. Now, with it selected, what I can do is I can now come down and center it. And that's going to place, let me go ahead and click it again to put it into move and transform mode. And that places the center of the text bounding box right here at X0, Y0. So it doesn't exactly center it up, but if you were to draw a rectangle around all this text, the center of that rectangle would be at 0. So just know that. And this is one of those situations where sometimes the numbers really don't matter. What really does matter is what looks good to your eye. So maybe I don't want that to be in the center. I want it to be up here in the top half of my pane. Maybe I'm going to put something else down here. Now, is this directly in the center of this half of the pane? I don't know. I'm going by what looks good. And more often than not, let your eyes tell you where it needs to go. Because being exactly in the center of this top half may just look off. It may look wrong. Just go ahead and go for what looks good to you. Now, that's it as far as really text placement is concerned. But in working with a script font in particular, you'll notice we have these overlaps here. Now, script fonts are meant to look like you drew this out by hand, just as you would if this was your handwriting, in one movement of the pen. In one, I'm sitting here moving my arms around like you can see me, in one, fluid motion. Well, fonts are not created that way. So you're going to have these overlaps. Sometimes they line up real well, like this M flows into this A, and we're just fine. This A flows into this R, and there's a little bit of messing about here. They don't quite line up perfectly. And over here, the R flows into the K just fine. Now, the way to make this look like we have created this in one smooth stroke is to come over and weld these letters together. In the old version of the software, you would have to first convert these to curves. Now, I can right-click and I can convert to curves. But before I do that, what I need to do is I need to make sure that these letters are where I want them and make sure that they are spaced appropriately. So while it's a text object, I can come up here to edit text spacing and curve, and I can use these tools to check my spacing here and see about aligning these a little better. Now, if I zoom in here real close, I can see that this R is a little bit too far that way. So I want to spread these out just a little bit. So if you look at my cursor, I have the letter V, then an arrowhead, then another arrowhead, then the letter A. Those arrowheads are pointing to one another. If I click my mouse now, it's going to bring those letters closer together. If I hold down Shift and click, you'll notice that the arrows change direction. Now I can spread them apart a little bit. Well, if we can see, it's not quite enough to get these lined up correctly. And the other thing about it is, this is not proportional, meaning that the closer I zoom in, the smaller the increments will be. That is not the case. So what I'm going to have to do to get these lined up correctly is I'm going to have to convert them to curves. Then I can move these letters individually. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. To get out of my edit text spacing and curve, I can come over here under edit objects to selection mode and click that arrow. Okay. Then with the text selected, right click and convert to curves. Now what I've just done is I've changed this text object into separate vectors that I can now adjust. I can now edit them like I would any other vector. So now I can come up here and grab this letter R to include this little island here in the center. If I just grab this part, it's not going to select that little island and it's going to get left behind. So hold down Shift, select it as well. And now I want to zoom in, and I'm not even in move and transform mode. I'm just going to use my cursor arrows. I'm going to zoom in, and I'm going to just tap on the cursor right button and just move that into better position. Now, I've got this vector overlapping this one, and I think this is good enough. I'm not going to get that picky. Okay. And then click off, and now I'm all set. Now, here is something to watch out for. I'm going to go ahead and weld these vectors together. When I do weld these vectors together, I want to select just the outside vectors. I do not want to select that island. If I select this island, then click weld, it's going to disappear. So when you have converted text to curves, select only the outside perimeter of these letters. Then come over and click weld, and that welds that text together. Now it looks like you have drawn all this in one smooth stroke. So again, I'm going to back up a few steps, and let's Control Z to undo that weld, Control Z again to undo my nudging, and undo all that playing around, and undo the move. And there is my text object. It is now a text object again. Now, looking over here, Brooks Martin says, doesn't holding down the control key while kerning move in smaller segments? I'm not certain. Let's double check. Let's see. So let's zoom in here. I'll go into edit text spacing and curve. And I want to move these apart a little bit. So I'll hold down control and click, and no, as Martin Pearson says, exactly the opposite. Holding down control makes it move in larger increments. So I'll Control Z that. Oops. Let me get back over here. Now I'll Control Z that, and there we go. So, but basically that's it there. Let's try, no, the shift, holding down the shift key is, holding down the shift key is how you change the direction. Put my cursor over here, Control Z, and hold down shift, watch my cursor. I hold down shift, that just changes the direction it goes. Now, a couple folks saying try Alt. All right, holding down Alt doesn't do anything. Holding down Alt doesn't do a thing. So when it comes to something like that, if it's real critical, now we can try welding this together as is and see how that looks. This may not make a difference. So let's weld it. All right, that was the other thing that I was going to mention, and I got ahead of myself. If you go to weld your text object without converting it to curves first, you'll get this message up here. Some objects, such as text or distorted objects, are going to be converted to curves when you weld them. This message confuses people, okay? Would you like to replace or keep the original objects? It's going to convert this text to curves, then weld them like I just did. What it's asking you is, do you want to keep that original text object, or do you want to replace the text object? The choice is yours. If you replace the text object, the text will go away and it'll be replaced with vectors like we just had. If you choose to keep them, and there is a good legitimate reason for keeping them, if you choose to keep them, you are now going to have the text object and the vectors. Now this can come in handy. I will go ahead and keep them and show you what I would do. Okay, so I'll click keep, and they have been welded, but if you look, the welded vectors are highlighted. They are selected right now. So what I would do is immediately put my cursor over one of those vectors and right click and move it to a new layer. We'll call that converted text. And I'll change the color to blue so we can tell the difference, and I'll make it visible. Okay, now if I click off, you can see I've got blue vectors and I've got black vectors. So now if I come up here to my layer manager and I click on converted text to make it the active layer, I can turn off layer 1 and there is my welded text. Everything works out just fine. If I want to come back in here for any reason, I can just turn layer 1 back on, select it, and turn off the converted text. Now, why would I want to do this? Well, let's say you are creating a sign and you have a feeling you're going to be selling a few of these, of this style. So you create your design, you go over, you calculate tool paths associating the turn on converted text, associating the tool path with this layer. You can now save this as a template, and that saves the design, that saves the tool paths, that saves everything to a template file. Then the next time you want to cut a different sign, you can come back in here and you can make layer 1 your active layer, turn off your converted text, select the text object, come back in and change that text without going back through all of the other formatting or any of the other designing. I can come in and put in Linda. Okay. And we'll close that. I'll do any kerning I need to do. I don't see a need to do any, to be honest with you. So now I can just go in here, turn on this one, turn off that one, select this text, delete it, go back into layer 1, make it active. Now I can select this text, weld it together, keep, immediately select, move to layer, converted text. Now I still have my text, and now I have the converted text. Then I go over, recalculate the tool paths, and drive on. Save my new G code and go out and cut. So it's easy to weld. It's easy to convert to curves. It's easy to save a template file. Working with the text is actually the most difficult part of this whole thing. And the only reason it's difficult is because, let's say now I decide this L is too far away. What I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to Control Z myself all the way back to where this is still a text object if I want to use edit text spacing and curve. If not, because these are separate vectors, I can now come over here and just bump that in. That doesn't change the template, but it will change what that layout's going to look like. Now, once I've edited over here, it's not important that it be edited on this other layer. What's important is I've got it edited here. I can jump over, recalculate the tool path, and drive on from there. Martin brings up an excellent point. Another reason for saving templates is in the future, you can't remember what font you used for a project. It's easy to check, but if it's all converted to curves, you have no idea. Absolutely. If you know you use this font for this pattern, but you can't remember the name of the font, it's real easy to, we can turn that on, make it active, shut that off. It's real easy to select that, go back into the draw text window, and it tells you what that font was. All right. So let's close that. That's a sneaky little trick, Martin, but it's brilliant, to be honest with you, because half of the time I don't remember what font I used. So let's see here. There were a couple of questions on the text here. First one from Michael Mazalik, which surprises me. Looking for places to find single line fonts. The only places that I have found single line fonts have been on the usual suspects of 1001 fonts or DaFont. But I've also done a Google search for engraving fonts. And that has led to a couple of other resources. Not only are they not all free, some of them are you buy the fonts individually or in a package, Some of them also run a subscription service where you become a member and you can download however many font packages or font families based on which level you subscribe at. Not all fonts are free. Not all of them are cheap. There are some expensive fonts out there. But for single line fonts, I pretty much just Google search for single line fonts or engraving fonts as I need them. If what I have isn't good enough, then I go and search. There aren't a lot of single line fonts out there. So let's see here. AL says, will you not need to redefine what curves the toolpaths are referring to? For example, if you switch from single word to multiple words. No. This kind of gets off the topic a little bit, but I'll tell you. When you, for instance, let me turn this back on, make it active, and I'll shut off layer 1. So I have my converted text here. I'm going to go over, select the text that I want to V-carve, for example. And I'm just going to go with whatever's in here. No, I'm going to change this. I'm going to remove that and I'll select a 1/8" end mill. And we'll just go there. What I meant when I said associate the toolpath with the this layer is I'm going to come down here to vector selection. Right now it says manual. I'm going to click on selector and I'm going to open the vector selector. And what I want to do is I want to select closed vectors, all closed vectors on this selected layer only. I want to put a check mark in converted text. All right. I want it to select all of the closed vectors on that layer. Then I'm going to come down here and I'm going to check associate with toolpath. Then I'm going to close it. And now I'll calculate that toolpath. Continue anyway. There are overlaps and that's fine. So now it has created these toolpaths. And I save this as a template. Now, if I come along, let me uncheck these here so we don't confuse ourselves. Now, if I come along and I add, let's say, a star, a 5-pointed star, let's just put one right there. That's way too big. Let's make it 1 inch. Apply. There we go. So I just added a 5-pointed star there. I come back over here. All I have to do is recalculate all toolpaths. All toolpaths successfully recalculated and everything on that layer is now a part of this toolpath. I didn't have to select anything. I see. So you will only switch to another layer and it will be used the closed vectors on it. Right. It will calculate a toolpath for any closed vector on this converted text layer. And it will be the same toolpath. So if I go into preview all toolpaths, and bang, there they are. Turn that black so you can see it. And this one black again so you can see it. So now reset my preview, close this, come over. Now if I save this as a template, I can recall this entire project, turn it back on here. If I save this as a template, I can come along 6 months from now and just turn off, make layer 1 active, turn off converted text. And again, I can change this text. And this time I want to change font. Let's go down to Alphaville. What the heck? I don't know why it did that. What's going on here? Must not like that font. All right. I'm going to change that to Mark. And I don't need to convert that to curves because there's nothing to join. There's nothing to overlap or anything. But even though I've changed my text here, it's not on this layer. So what I would need to do, go ahead and shut that off, is I could just copy this. I don't even have to convert it to curves. Copy to layer, converted text. Now I can turn that on. Turn off layer 1, and whoops, I made a mistake there. I should have deleted that first. That's okay. I can delete that now. And let's move my star up here. Come over, recalculate all toolpaths. It even keeps the toolpath color for me. And there I go. So let's go ahead and reset the preview. Ah, boy. So let's go back up here, turn on layer 1, make it active, turn off my other layer, and there we go. Okay, let's get to some more of your questions. Let's see here. Bob Heltebridle says, putting text on a curve, trying to put it at the top outside the curve, but trying to put it at the top outside the curve, but I want it to go on the bottom. Okay, so you're wondering, all right, let's reduce the size of this, and I'll put this on a curve real quick. So I'll hold down Shift. There we go. And we'll move this up out of the way. Now, to put text on a curve, I need a curve. So let's go with an ellipse. And we'll do an ellipse about like that. Okay, close. And I'm going to go into node editing, and I'm just going to split this ellipse, cut the vector there, right click, cut the vector there. All right, and then come out of node editing. Now here's the curve. I want this to be underneath this curve. Am I right, Bob? Is that what you're talking about? Well, what I can do is select the text, then hold down Shift and select the curve. Come over here, text on a curve. Now, by default, it's going to put the text above the curve. I want it to go below the curve. It's just that simple. It's just that simple. So I can put it on the curve, but it's right here, this control, the text position. Something to remember. If you ever enter text on, and the text is backwards, what you'll need to do is close it, come out of it, select your vector, type N on your keyboard to go into node editing. And what you're looking for is this green start point. If, for instance, let me come over here, right click, and I'll make this the start point. All right. Now, whoops, no, 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 that was a mistake. I thought I had changed it. All right, let's get up here. I've got my text selected, hold down shift, and I'm going to select my vector, and I go to put text on a curve. It's upside down and backwards. If I go above the curve, it's below the curve and backwards. If I put it on the curve, it's upside down and backwards. That's because this is the start point. And so it's taking that text and it's running it in this direction. It thinks that's what you want it to do. Well, let me close, Control Z to undo that. With that vector selected, tap N to go into, I forgot to deselect the text. Tap N to go into node editing, and I want to go right over here, right click, make start point. We read text right to left. Some languages, they read left to right. This will shift text, we read text left to right. Some other languages read right to left. This will switch that around, but it'll also make it upside down and flip the characters upside down. Currently, Vectric does not support alphabets that are designed to be read from right to left. Arabic, Hebrew, things of that nature. I can't say that they are working on it, but they do know about it. I've asked a couple of times. So they are aware that there is a need for it. Okay, so select the text first, hold down shift, select the vector, and we'll put it below the curve as Bob wanted it. And there we go. So while I have this here, I'm going to do a little bit of housekeeping from last week. And that is, I totally forgot about something when I was demonstrating. Let me zoom in here and get this placed right about there. That's about what I want. I forgot something when I was demonstrating the draw vector boundary. There have been a lot of times where we have a couple of vectors that we want to draw a vector boundary around to make a cutout. For instance, if I've got that, let's place some more text here. Let's switch up here. I want to make this 1 inch tall. And I want to say diner. Okay. Make a little sign here. And zoom in. Let's bring that back up. There we go. Okay. I'm going to select this and I'm going to change it. What are you doing? Oh, it's already on a curve. That's why. Close. Can't do that. Let's get rid of that. There we go. Let's put some more text up here. I know this is a hodgepodge. There we go. There we go. Now I can bring this up here, and this leads me to another point I wanted to make. Now let's leave that about like that. Let's edit text spacing. We'll get in here, and I want to tighten up the space between these lines. Let's click, and it'll keep going. So now my buddy Sam and his wife Ella can advertise their diner. Not a pretty design, but it'll get by. Now let's adjust that horizontally so it's right in the center, and there we go. Now, if I want to V-carve or paint these words here, but I want to cut this out. Used to be I would have to select all this, convert the text to curves, do all of that stuff, and then do a lot of trimming and clipping and what have you. Much easier is to just select it all and create a vector boundary. I don't want to do an offset boundary. I don't want to do a rubber band boundary. I want it to follow these vectors I have selected. I click create, and I've created. I'll close this. You can see that there are some vectors selected. I'm going to immediately right click, move to layer, new layer, and we'll call this layer 3. And we'll change that color to green. Okay. Now I'm going to make layer 3 active, shut off layer 1, and I have an outline vector for carving all of that out. One quick perimeter. Now there's one thing I did miss, and that is the inside of this D and possibly some of the insides of this M. Now for that, I can do some copying and trimming and what have you. But this will make that vector boundary with one push of the button. So now my friends Sam and Ella, they can have their sign. Okay, let's see here. What would happen if you try to use my name? Experiment, Eyal. Again, I have asked several times if they would, if they support languages that are typewritten or read from right to left, and they say not currently. Experiment. That's about all I can tell you. And this is a shortcoming in StreamYard. I have no way of copying what you've typed in there. Okay, it won't let me highlight it and copy it out of StreamYard, and that's just a problem within StreamYard. So, all right, let's see here. What else was I going to talk about? I was going to talk about, oh yes, was going to talk about vertical text, but I did have a question here. When you change the name in the template, does the new name stay in the template? No, it does not. That is one of the benefits of that's one of the benefits of saving a template. when you save a template, it cannot be modified. Let me go ahead and Control Z back a bunch. Well, no, I don't want to do that. Do I want to do that? Okay, let's just save this as a template. All right, that's good enough. File, save as template. Now I'm going to put it on my desktop. And I will call it, come on, get in there. There we go. Delete, backspace, backspace. Demo, and enter. All right, now I've in my demo template. I'll close the file. No, I don't want to save the changes. Now I'll come up here, create a new file from template. All right. There is my demo template right there that I created. All right. So I'll open it up. And the first thing it does is it puts me into job setup. Okay. Martin, that's the joke. That's the joke. Score yourself 5 bonus points. Okay, the first thing it does is it puts me into job setup. Okay. Because it doesn't know what I want to carve this on. Maybe I want to put this on a 4-foot by 8-foot sheet of plywood and attach neon to it. The software doesn't know. So I will enter my width, I'll enter my height, and I'll enter my thickness. I'll set all of this the same as I would if I was starting a brand new file, and I'll click OK. And if we go over here and look, there's my tool paths. Everything is ready to go. But look up here at the title of the file. The title of the file is new. All it did was it loaded all of the layers. It loaded all of the artwork. It loaded all of the tool paths, but it did not modify that template. Excuse me, that template. So now if I delete this and close it, it's going to ask me, do I want to save my changes? We'll click yes. Okay. But it's doing a save as. Okay. Well, it's saving it as a new file. So let's call it template demo. Hit enter. And now it went ahead and it closed it. Create a new file from template. I'll go back to my demo template and open it up, and everything is back. It will not edit your template at all. Hell, I thought those were actually name of friends of Mark, so I didn't want to be rude. No, it was supposed to be a joke. That's just my brain. You know, I've always thought it would be funny. But that's the beauty of creating a template. You cannot edit a template file once you make it. The only thing you can do is you can delete that template file. And for that to work, cancel, and it won't even finish opening if I cancel that. Okay. So let's go back to that template file. We'll go ahead and open it up because I see another question over here from Norm Peterson. Off topic, how do you get the align objects to always show on the left side? Very easy, Norm. You come over here. All right, let's go ahead and accept that for what it is. You'll come over here to align objects. All right. Right down here at the bottom, show common tools on the drawing tab. Just put a check mark there and click close, and your align objects will be right there. Okay. So it's that simple. So let's see here. Let me get back into some more of these questions here. That was Bob's. Get some of these that are real fast to answer. David Hittenberger, will G-Sender work on an Axiom Iconic 8? I'll be using VCarve Pro. Contact Axiom. For anything machine specific like this, always contact the machine manufacturer. They know your machine best. I believe Axiom runs its own proprietary controller, and I don't think you can use G-Sender. So I would definitely go to Axiom's website and contact their tech support to get an answer on that. Let's see. Brad Murray wants to know, does Vectric charge for the version updates? Your best bet would be to reach out to them, but the way it has been in the past is if it's an in-family update, meaning you have version 11.0 and you want to update to 11.5, that is free. It's within that version 11 family. If, for instance, I have version 11.5, when version 12 comes out, because I've had this software for more than 1 year, I will have to pay for an update, for the upgrade to version 12. It's not an update, it's an upgrade. Okay. The price is different for whichever software you have. VCarve Desktop is one price, VCarve Pro is another price, Aspire is another price. So your best bet would be to, when the new version comes out, log into your V&Co account, and it will tell you on your account, based on your software, how much it will cost to upgrade if there is a charge. Okay. The way they've done it in the past was, if you buy 11.5 today and 3 months from now version 12 comes out, they have given a free upgrade because the new release was imminent. So, and that has been within 12 months, excuse me. So, it's on a case-by-case basis. Your best bet is to go log into your V & Company account rather, and click on the if there, you see an icon there that says upgrade your software, click on that and it'll tell you there how much that upgrade will be. Okay. So let's see. Let's get into some other questions here. Mark, I have a job coming up that will require me to use the tiling toolpaths. Are there any tips you could give me? Watch my first video, and follow that. That should give you everything you need. Also, you did not post the second video of you cutting the sign out on the machine. Are you going to at some point? See that right there over my shoulder? That is the material for that sign. That should be coming soon. I'm finally getting the time to actually cut it. That's the reason I haven't posted it, is because the video is not done yet. So, let's see. Steve Knowles said his upgrade is $400, 10.5 to 11.5. Yeah, that's for Aspire, I'm sure. So, okay. Let's see now. Let me get back over here. Max Garcia says, Mark, do you know where you can buy domestic and exotic woods for your CNC projects? Let me go ahead and stop sharing here since we're not talking about that. The number one thing I can tell you is do a regular Google search, enter hardwoods and your postal code or zip code, and do a search. There you'll find should be a list of the hardwood suppliers in your neighborhood or within your postal code. If you're like me and you live in one postal code, you've got a major city right down the road, enter that postal code. If you've got 3 or 4 towns, especially if you know that one town is more suited to industrial, use that postal code. Generally speaking, you're going to find hardwood sellers in your area. You may have to wade through some hardwood flooring suppliers, but even that can be a good source of materials. I've worked with solid walnut hardwood flooring myself. Uh, the thing about ordering wood online is wood is expensive to ship. It takes up a lot of room and it's heavy. So you can order some woods online, but I try to stay away from it because it costs one arm and half a leg to try to ship an 8-foot long piece of 8-quarter maple that's 8 inches wide. There's a lot of eights in that statement, but you get my point. It's always look for hardwood suppliers in your area. So let's see here. Nelly says, what's the difference between VCarve Pro and Aspire? 3D modeling. That's the main difference. VCarve Pro, you can carve 3D models, but you can't create your own 3D models. Aspire is the 3D modeling software. That's the number one difference. There are a couple of other subtle differences, but not many. The main difference is the ability to create 3D models. Let's see. Vortex 8 wants to know, can you change the color of the job sheet so your lines stand out when using some colors? I believe the job sheets, and for those of you who don't know what a job sheet is, let's go ahead and go back in. Now, this is for VCarve Pro and Aspire only. VCarve Desktop does not have job sheet capability. We'll come up here to, nope, that's not it. Toolpaths, create job sheet. Okay. Now create a job sheet and I'll put it on my desktop. We'll call it template demo, and it's going to save it as an HTML file. And now I will go to my desktop and I will find template demo HTML, and I'll open it up, and of course it opened it up over here, so I'll have to drag it over to you. And it gave me this job sheet. There is a brief outline of the project. Here are the tool paths. There's my material block, the home position, Z0 datum position, my Z1 clearance, my XY position, XY datum position. There are 2 tool paths. These are the names of those tool paths, and here's what they do. And there's the estimated time it's going to take me to cut this project. It does not I don't think there is any way of changing the colors in the job sheet. So that's it. So Vortex says, no, I'm talking about the drawing space. You mean changing the colors here? Well, yes. You go into the layer manager right here. Say I've got layer 1. This little looks like this rectangle with the arrow below it. That's the color of the vectors out here. So if you don't want this to be black, you can click on that arrow and you can select the color. All right. So let's say I want those red. All right. There we go. Now they're red. And it's the same thing if you use your layer manager over here. You can come over and change this from green to purple. And now that layer is purple. The background color of the sheet stays the same. That stays the same. There are some modifications you can make, but that would be for a different video. Now you can change the background in the 3D view, but that would be for a different video. I'm starting to go long here and I have one more question to answer. We can talk about that tomorrow, okay? Or not tomorrow. We can talk about that next Sunday. I apologize. My brain on Mark. But as far as changing the material color, you can only change it in the 3D view. If you want to change the background color within the 3D view, you can change that. But for 2D view, I don't think there is a way to change this. So, but I will talk about changing background colors, etc. next week. In fact, I did a video on it. I did a video on changing the what's going on there. I did a video on changing this background in the 3D view to be a photograph. And I took a simulation of a barn star that I carved, a 3D barn star, and placed it on the back of my house, then saved a preview image. I will link that down in the description of this video as soon as we're finished here. But again, that's 3D view, not 2D view. So let's see, 3D. And I just wrote myself a note to do that. So let's see. Matt Garcia wants to know, is a V-carve toolpath better to use than a profile toolpath? Does it depend on the project? It depends on the project, and it depends on what you're trying to do. For instance, if you were doing this right here, if you wanted to V-carve this text, then by all means, I would certainly use the V-carve toolpath. Having said that, you could use a profile toolpath with a specific depth. That's generally used for open vectors. People want to know how they can V-carve open vectors. You can't really V-carve open vectors, but you can use a profile toolpath to a specific depth. For instance, here, I take that. Let's close. I've got those selected. I'll do a profile toolpath with a 60-degree V-bit, carving a 1/16 of an inch deep. So that would be 0.625. That would be about 1.5 millimeters deep. Okay. So I'm cutting that deep with the 60-degree V-bit, and I want to machine on the vector. Okay. I don't want to go to the outside. I don't want to go to the inside. I want to machine on the vector. Then I'll come down and I'll calculate it. And I will change that toolpath color to black so you can see it, and I'll preview that toolpath. And that's what it'll create. It'll create the outline of that text, but it won't V-carve the text. If you want to V-carve the text, let's reset the preview, close, go back to the 2D view, and with the same text selected, we'll V-carve it. I won't change anything here. I'll just calculate and change the toolpath color to black, change that toolpath color to black, and we'll preview the visible toolpaths, and shaboom, there they are. They are carved out completely. So yes, it does matter, and it does depend on the project, but they also serve two different purposes. So there's that. Let me go ahead and reset my preview. Let's go ahead and wrap this up. I'm really going long here, but that's okay. Let's see here now if we have any other quick questions. Talking about the dwelling space, the background. Yeah, it's awesome. Thanks for your help, Bob. Let's see. Did Dwayne have a Mark, did you say you can print job sheets for selected sheets only? I am not sure that if that, okay, now Michael Mazalik says it prints all job sheets. All job sheets for all sheets. You cannot select only one sheet. Okay, there we go. All righty. Robert Hodge, real quick, like on a 3D carve, why does the roughing path take forever compared to the finishing path? Depends on how you have it set up. Okay. It depends on the bit, and it depends on your feeds. It depends on your speeds. But another thing it depends on, let's go into a 3D roughing toolpath, and I always use a 1/4 or a 1/2 inch end mill, depending on how big it is. Let me share this with you. We got a roughing toolpath. Which strategy are you using? If you're using Z-level strategy, doing a profile last and going level by level, this will be much faster. If you're using a ball nose with a 3D raster, you're basically machining the entire model twice. Even if you are using a Z-level strategy, going level by level, and what that means level by level is each level is the cut depth of your bit. So if you have a pass depth, let's look at this end mill. I have a pass depth of a 1/16 of an inch for this particular bit. Each level is going to be a 1/16 of an inch deep. If that model is going to require me to cut an inch deep, that's how many levels it's going to go down. The other thing to look at is your feed rate and your plunge rate, especially your plunge rate. Your plunge rate is going to decide how fast your machine moves on a 3D carve, be it roughing or finishing. On a roughing toolpath, set a conservative plunge rate. But just know that your machine will always run at the speed of the slowest axis, and that's always going to be your Z. So you can adjust your plunge rate and go from there. But other than that, it just depends on how you set it up. All right. I do need to go. Wow. Holy cow. All right. I need to go ahead and wrap this up. Thank you, everybody, for this, the first live Q&A session of 2024. I'd like to thank everybody for everything in 2023. I do this because it's fun. I genuinely have fun doing this. And you guys make it so. Thank you for watching. Thank you for coming along and joining in on these live Q&As. Thank you for sharing my videos. Thank you for hitting the thumbs up. Thank you for subscribing. All of that helps me. All of that helps the channel, and all of that helps everybody out there watching to learn how to do this. That's my mission here. My mission here is to make it to where you don't need me anymore. I'm here to show you that this is not over your head. You can do this if you want to sit down and learn it. You do have to put in the work. But 8 years ago, I couldn't spell CNC. Now I've built 4 of them. And if I can do this, you can too. Okay? Channel members, tomorrow night, members only live Q&A. Check the community tab here on my YouTube channel for the link to that members only live stream. Don't know what we're going to talk about, but we're going to do something good. And send me your Christmas project photos. I mean, come on, guys. I know you guys did something cool. Let's go through them tomorrow. If you don't know what I'm talking about, or if you think you want to join in the fun with becoming a channel member, just hit that join button right there next to the subscribe button, and a little panel is going to pop up and a video is going to play that'll tell you all about channel membership. I would also, before we wrap up, like to invite everybody here to check out Michael Mazalik's video that's going to be premiering in about a half hour from now. Who's Michael Mazalik? Well, he's this guy right here in the chat. Where'd he go? There he is. He is my 3D guru. He is the man, the myth, the legend. And he's got a killer video that's premiering in about a half hour. Check it out. It's going to be one of those, oh, why didn't I think of that videos? He's doing a whole series on them. And this one is the, why didn't I think of that? Can I throw out a spoiler, Michael? For everybody who has been asking me how to copy toolpaths to another sheet, 3 ways. He shows you 3 ways. Now you got to go watch it. I mean, come on. As for me, I'm going to head over to my buddy John's live stream now. John, what if I could? He's going to be doing some scroll saw projects, hooting and hollering and having a good time. If you want to come over and watch that, just hang around. The minute I end the stream here, YouTube will send you over there. And we're just going to hoot, holler, and have a good old time. And going to check out Michael's video too when it goes live here in a little more than a half an hour. Until then, thank you for everything, y'all. Y'all mean more to me than you'll ever know. And we'll see you next week with something else. And don't know what it's going to be yet. But until that time, relax. You worked hard. Just chill. It's okay to put your feet up. See you next week. Y'all take care.